Now, can you tell me what happened to the soldiers that were inoculated with your vaccine?
Well, none of them got anthrax, if that's what you're asking. Yeah.
What did they get?
Some debilitating stomach cramps, severe diarrhea, memory loss.
Yes. Go on. Any more symptoms?
Partial facial paralysis, temporary blindness, drooling, bleeding gums, erectile dysfunction, uncontrollable flatulence. I think that's it.
Welcome back, everyone, to Late to the Party, where we review old movies and see if they hold up in modern times. Today's movie is Evolution, 2001 film starring David Duchovny, Julianne Moore, Seann William Scott, Orlando Jones, and a bunch of other people, and two little fat dudes who like Head and Shoulders. We got a 6.1 out of 10 on IMDb, 43% on Rotten Tomatoes, and a 2.8 out of 5 on Letterboxd, whatever that is. It is a comedy that follows the chaos that ensues when a meteor hits the Earth, carrying alien life forms that give new meaning to the term survival of the fittest. David Duchovny, Orlando Jones, Seann William Scott, and Julianne Moore are the only people standing between the aliens and world domination, which would be bad news for Earth. Oh, and it also stars, Would You Fuck Me? General Tucker.
Buffalo Bill.
Buffalo Bill.
That's right. And the great Dan Aykroyd.
Too.
Yeah.
In My State.
Yep.
Dan Aykroyd.
Yep.
Everybody's in this.
This
movie.
was like no, well, because I remember when they were getting ready to make this movie, they were talking about it and they kept comparing it to Ghostbusters because Ivan Reitman directed it, and they were like, oh, this is going to be like the new Ghostbusters. When you watch it, you could feel that they were trying to, put that out there kind of thing, but just, it doesn't work on that level. I think it's good in different terms. Like, it's just a cheesy, fun movie. You know what I mean? It's just got great one-liners throughout the whole thing. You know what I mean? Like the loop, that's one of my favorite lines too. I forgot about that scene when he's just like screaming the way Julianne Moore's holding his hand. She's like talking to him like he's a little kid getting a shot and shit. She's like, "Oh, you're doing so good."
So cute. So good. Don't clench.
I don't know that they marketed this movie properly. I don't know what I don't remember. I remember when I finally saw it. It wasn't in the theaters. It had already gone to video or maybe even to cable. And I think I saw it like jumping in maybe when they were chasing what they said was a bird, which they probably told them that it was a bird. And then they made it like a dragon in post. But while that was happening, it was the first time I saw it. And, it was interesting enough to where I watched it for like 20 minutes. I'm like, wow, this is really cool. And then I went to the guide and I looked on HBO or whatever movie service it was playing on cable at the time. And I saw, oh, wait, it's going to be playing again at 10. And I turned it off and I watched it from the beginning because I wanted to see that whole movie. And I love this movie. I've never not enjoyed watching this movie. And it's the kind where I don't want to say you see a new thing every time, but you are reminded of a funny thing that happened before, because it's got a bunch. It ticks on all cylinders. There's not any real dead spots in this. It's funny. And then even, the two science class failure kids who are writing their essay about what was it?
Cells.
Cells.
Writing about cells.
My uncle's in a cell.
But the way they solve it is why I love that scene so much. Because they're sitting there, they're doing the periodic table on her shirt, and he's like trying to figure it out like it was a scientific way. And then the two drunk fucking fuck up kids, they're just sitting there drinking their beer, and all the scientists can't figure out where to get this fucking this chemical, and both of them just are like, oh, yeah, we got this. Like drug dealers, like in
And
every
I'm
drug
like,
dealer scene, they're like, how the fuck can you get it? He's like, head and shoulders. He's like, look at my hair and shit.
Flake free.
Yes. I was like, I love it, dude. Like, this flick has got a lot of like you said, I agree with you. Tons of like funny little like moments in it. But like the other thing I remember about this flick too, when it came out, this was Duchovny's first movie that he did after doing X-Files. Like when he quit being on the X-Files, like this was going to be the movie that was supposed to shoot him. So they tried to make him more funny. And I think if he's just playing the straight guy and they would have let Orlando Bloom do his things, it would have came out way better. Because even Bill Murray in Ghostbusters is the straight man. You know what I mean? Like he's very like he's sarcastic and shit, but he doesn't overreact. You know what I mean? He's always very calm. You know, like when shit's going down and stuff. And Duchovny like has scenes where he's trying to be funny. Like you could see, like even when they're in the car. As much as I love when they kill the bird and they're in the car driving, singing, play that funky music, white boy. You know what I mean? Like you're just kind of like they're trying to make Duchovny cool. You know, like that. You're like you don't need that, dude. Like you could have just went from there and made him, you know, the scientist. And I love the fucking when he describes what his serum did to people. He's like, do we have to talk about it? He's like, well, the court would like to know. And he's like, oh, well, you know, they shit themselves. They fucking did it. Like, everything bad that came happen was
but see that what was
effect.
good about that? What was good about that scene though is that prior to that, remember then they roll up the first time when the government takes over, and that guy comes up to the Jeep and he's like, "You're Ira, you're." And then they're dragging him back, and you're like, "What did this guy do?" He goes, "I was in. You made me wear a diaper for a month," and you're like, "What the fuck did he do for like what?" And then you know it pays off when he goes into the court and they talk about all that. You're like, "Oh, that's why that guy was in it." Okay.
Yeah.
Like,
Vaccinations.
Yeah.
It was.
And
it
even
was
Julia, but even Julianne Moore, like her fucking being clumsy and shit every 10 minutes, you know what I mean, got kind of old. Like, you know, like that's what I mean. Like there's these little things where you're watching it going like, no, we don't need that, dude. Like you could have done great without that. Like give me 2 times she trips, cool, you know, we know she's a klutz. But then there's like certain parts where you're like, damn, this is getting like Three Stooges and shit like that, like over the top kind of. But I still love it, dude. Like it's still one of my favorites to watch all the time when it comes on TV. I'm like, oh, I'll watch this. Even my wife, she fucking came downstairs and she heard the caw. Like, are you watching Evolution? I was like, yeah. And she sat down with me and we finished it and shit together. We just love that scene. Like, from then on, it's, you know, it's funny as hell. Yeah. I forgot about the Tuki. I was choking on my popcorn because all I remember is caca. And when he went Tuki, I was like, ah!
I just forgot the tuki. It's like wait, what? It's okay, honey.
And I love the girl that was shoplifting. I swear I'll never shoplift again.
Good. You shouldn't do that. Like, okay.
Josh, you're being awful quiet tonight.
No, I didn't enjoy this movie when I saw it. I didn't really enjoy it this time either. It's not. You know, after Ghostbusters, it seems to me that Ivan Reitman has been really struggling to put out something anywhere near the ballpark of that film. In this movie, you know, it's already been said. You know, it's cheesy. It's just full of like gags and jokes and things like that. It's not real. Doesn't have any gravity to it, and I'm not a big fan of Duchovny, except for his work in the X-Files, because his one style of acting works there, but he's like a cardboard, you know. And even when he's trying to be funny and like gregarious and, you know, friendly, it comes across as really forced.
Yeah.
Orlando Bloom is funny, or not Bloom. Orlando Jones is funny, but look, there's only 2.
They look
Orlandos
alike.
in
I get
Hollywood.
it.
He's funny, but you know, I'm always waiting for him to say 7 Up yours. You know, it's that's his claim to fame. And Seann William Scott, the only thing I can think of is like whatever happened to him, he disappeared. Somebody needs to check him, do a wellness check. So there's parts of it that were, that I laughed out loud, but most
Only
of it is
one.
just.
There's one part that you laughed out loud for, and that's when they're at the diner, and Orlando and Seann William Scott, they're sitting there eating, and Orlando looks over at him and he goes, "Are you gonna eat your bacon?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna eat my bacon. I ordered it, didn't I?" Josh starts cracking up because he turns to me and he goes, "See, it must be a Scott thing because Josh doesn't share food." So he said
And that's
that.
actually exactly what I say. Like when people want to eat my food, "Are you going to eat that?" It's like, "Yeah, I ordered it, didn't I?"
That's an exact quote from Josh. It's like, it's a Scott thing.
It's in the blood.
It's just a Scott thing, and I was like, "Oh my god."
Anyway, yeah,
I love that scene just for the Sarah Silverman part. That's my favorite part of that scene, dude. That killed me.
Sarah Silverman has acquired an odor about her in recent years, and so watching her back then, it just reminds me of where she's at these days, which is not a pleasant thing. But yeah, and the other thing too is that I think in my mind when I was sitting down to watch this movie, like I had some confusion in my mind with this and Eight-Legged Freaks. And there was like some crossover going on because like there were scenes I was expecting that didn't happen, but then I was also remembering David Arquette, and I'm like, he's not in this movie. So
Yeah, it's all about his life.
right.
I can see that. I can see
no.
the streams getting crossed on that.
Yeah, well, so and all of that like combined together, it just made it kind of a meh experience. Plus, we watched this on the tail end of watching Vikram, and
A change of pace.
Right.
it's big difference. It's a big difference in quality.
Day and night.
This is the second time I've seen it, and this is the first time I've seen it without commercials. Because the first time I saw it was like on USA or TNT or something like that. Like, so it was always like chopped up, or there was like commercials and stuff. But I remember it, but I liked it this time around. I'm like, hey, this movie wasn't as bad as I remember it being. Like, I remember it being like a lot worse, getting a lot more like shit on for it. But this movie is a lot of fun. I liked it too. It's just, don't trust the government, just like, oh, I worked with those guys, I know what it's like, and you're just like, okay.
Yeah, all of that stuff was hitting a little too close to home, given the times in which we live. Talking about government intervention and vaccines and stuff, and I'm like, man, this is going bad places.
I was just surprised how people were in this movie. Like, so many different celebrities were like popping up, and they're so young. That was the other thing, is everybody in this movie is so young. Like, it's crazy.
Well, even like Seann William Scott was just coming off of American Pie fame, so that's why he's like playing the Stifler part again. You know what I mean? They're like, just do that, and he's like, he's all right.
Has he ever not been Stifler though?
Yeah, if you watch his later work, the ones that no one's really watched, like The Goon and Bulletproof Monk and stuff like that, he has Stifler-esque, but you can see him trying to branch out, and he even played a serial killer in a movie that he did pretty good. I just can't remember the movie, but him branching out doesn't play well to other people. It's the same reason why I think like when you don a superhero costume, it's the same thing. That's who you are. Like, we don't want. I'm not saying I hate saying we, because I like seeing people do something different. Like, you win respect with me if you do something, even if you fail at it. I'm just like, you know what, dude, they did it. They tried. Like what was that Ryan Gosling one where he's driven or whatever it was called. Remember that Artsy Fartsy movie? Albert Brooks is one of my all-time favorite comedians. Like, I love that guy to death. One of my favorite writers. And he plays the villain in that movie. And he does such a good job of it. You know what I mean? But like, on paper, you'd be like, when I read that, I go, Albert Brooks is the bad guy. I was like, that sounds stupid. Like, why would, like, is this a comedy? Like, is it going to be funny and shit? And when you see it, you know, it's violent, it's bloody, and he, you know, he has jokes in there, but you're just like, oh, he is like cynical. Like I would be scared of this guy. So that's why when I saw this, I was like, oh, David Duchovny is going to be funny. Like, okay, let's go see it and shit like that. And then when you watch it, you're like, God damn, man, didn't Ivan Reitman go like, all right, time out, dude. Like let's cut these lines out and give them, you know, a little bit more of something to do. But again, I still enjoy the movie because of what it is. It's a ton of fun. Like it's just silly, you know. It's a silly time. This is popcorn movie, big time popcorn movie.
Yeah. Put it on.
I'm with you. I had a good time with it, and just like Josh said that this movie reminds him of Eight-Legged Freaks. I would agree with that. I also would say I would put this reminding me also of what was the Tim Allen spaceship movie?
Galaxy
That's
Quest.
right, 'cause
Galaxy Quest.
Galaxy Quest or Evolution, and I was like, how are you going to compare
Well,
the
Galaxy.
two? But
Yeah,
I
no,
see.
Galaxy Quest. And there was this documentary that came out like a year or two ago, and they were like it was like a scientific, you know, breakdown of movies, and like all these movies, Citizen Kane, you know, all these movies, right, that people have gone through.
They had Galaxy Quest with Citizen Kane.
Galaxy Quest was considered the most perfect movie, and I was like, "What the fuck?" And then so I sat down, I listened to this guy talk about it, and I went, "Holy shit, he's
like,
right!" Like it's literally
Galaxy
it
Quest
is
my favorite Star Trek movie.
Yeah, it's in Star Trek circles, it runs really high.
In Star Trek, they rank out like the Star Trek movies, right? Like from top to bottom, what's the best? Galaxy Quest actually comes in number 4.
And it's not even a Star
and
Trek
it's not
film.
even a Star Trek film.
But it's
like
the spirit of it.
Just like how the Orville comes out on Star Trek TV
yeah.
shows.
Yeah.
Like I love Galaxy Quest, and you know, and I could get maybe how, like, I think Eight-Legged Freaks, if I'm not mistaken, came out the same time as this one, Evolution did. So that's probably how you got the two confused, because you probably saw this and then saw Eight-Legged Freaks or vice versa, and you're like, they just blended together. Because I when you said that, I was like, oh shit, I forgot. Yeah, I forgot about that movie, Eight-Legged Freaks. Because I like that one too. That's another fun one. You know what I mean? Like, but there was like an era of like in the 90s where we had big monsters. Like, you know what I mean? It's like they figured out CG, how we can make big monsters. So they were like, give us everything. Godzilla, fucking Evolutions, Eight-Legged Freaks. Let's just give it all to them, dude. You know what I mean? Like, they were grabbing scripts off the desk and dusting them off.
But that Godzilla that we got back then was trash. So
the Matthew Broderick one,
yeah,
where his neck was all thick. That was brutal.
Yeah. Well,
all right, let's do it. Let's get into the buckets. I'll go first this time. I want to give this one 8 buckets. It's a hoot for me. It's a fun film. I like it. I always have a good time when I watch it.
I'm with Nate. It's an 8 for me too. I like this one. It's a lot more fun than I remember it being. Like before, I'm like, oh, this is a stupid movie. Who the fuck likes this movie? This is ridiculous. That's all. I'm in. I'm all in now.
Nice.
I want to go buy the button that has the 3 eyeballs on it. So. You're gonna get that.
Yeah, I think for me it's going to be a little bit lower. I think this movie had a lot of potential. You know, there's a lot of elements that I think could have come together in the right way to make it a great movie, and instead it comes across as mediocre. I'm going to be generous because I like Orlando Jones and give it a 6.
All right.
Well, I'm going on this one. I'm going to give it 2 grades. 1 overall, I'm giving it a 7. It's a 7, easy 7. But for fun, because it's fun and it's got about 15 hit fuzzies, check marks, you know what I'm saying? At least 10 good lines, you know what I mean? 3 memorable scenes, you know what I mean? One of my favorite actors in it. So I'm going to push it up to a 9, baby. 9.
All right, that's fair. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching our review of Evolution 2001's classic science fiction movie. Stay tuned. Too late to the party. We'll have a new special old movie for you next week.
Some debilitating stomach cramps, severe diarrhea, memory loss.
Yes? Go on. Any more symptoms?
Partial facial paralysis, temporary blindness, bleeding gums, erectile dysfunction.